Expert care from people who care.
Hey everyone! Today we are here at the Outreach Teen and Family Services office with Kate
and Grace. Today's theme is taking care of yourself, and we have a very special guest, Dr. Alan Yeasted. Dr. Yeasted is the Senior Vice President and Chief Medical Officer Emeritus of Clair Health. Dr. Yeasted played a major role in the creation of a rooftop garden atop the St. Clair Hospital that facilitates healthier lifestyles by providing fresh produce for community members in need. We are so excited to have him join us on Teens Tap In today.
So we're going to start off with our Fast 5 questions. So these are just some would you rather or this or that questions that kind of get us warmed up. So the first question is, would you rather go on a safari or a cruise?
Safari.
Why safari?
My wife won't go with me on a cruise.
What about you, Grace?
I've always wanted to go on a cruise, and my parents are so against it. And I don't know why. I could convince them to go on a safari, they wouldn't go on a cruise.
I went on a cruise a long time ago, in middle school, and I think it was really fun. I feel I would pick cruise. I don't know, safari, I feel it wouldn't have indoor plumbing, and I kind of need it.
Okay, would you rather be nauseous all the time or have a headache all the time?
I'd rather be nauseous all the time.
Really?
I would say headache.
Me too. I don't know. I feel I can't do anything when I'm nauseous.
I feel that way when I have a headache. So.
Yeah.
Third question. Would you rather be able to see the future or be able to change the future?
I'd rather be able to change the future.
What about you, Grace?
Neither. I just don't want to know what's going to happen. I'll find out when I get there.
I don't know either, because I feel if you can change it, what if you regret it? It's too much power. But then if you can see it, then
but you can't do anything about it.
Maybe I think I would do change the future as well.
Would you rather be surrounded by sharks or jellyfish?
Well, neither's not a choice, I guess, right?
Neither's not a choice. You gotta pick one.
You have to pick. That's a tough one. I think I'd take jellyfish. You could probably outswim them, but you would not outswim a shark.
I agree with that.
I would go sharks, because jellyfish, fun fact, they don't have a brain. So, they literally have no idea what's happening.
That's true.
Sharks are at least, somewhat thinking, and I feel I could maybe figure out something with a shark, but, the jellyfish, they're just floating along.
Wait, now I'm thinking, I know I wrote these questions, but maybe I can, outsmart my question and say I'd rather use sharks, but say tiger sharks. No, wait, not tiger sharks, but whale sharks. What are they called?
Oh,
the really big ones that are, nice. Do you know,
yeah, they're, friendly, and they don't, they just, open their mouths and, plankton comes in. So they're not,
Not, oh, yeah, these
Yeah.
ones. Yeah.
I feel I could be
They're
friends
called
with a whale
sharks.
shark.
They're like these.
Oh, they're kind of cute.
Super nice.
They kind of look
Not
like
tiger
manatee.
sharks. I said tiger sharks, and I was like, wait.
I think tiger sharks are
Tiger sharks are the
scary.
big ones, for sure. Okay, fifth question. Would you rather live in a house with broken heating or broken air conditioning? I realized as I wrote these questions that they're all pretty sad. Yeah.
That's easy for me. Broken air conditioning.
Yeah.
That's where we grew up. We didn't have air conditioning originally, so it's a lot easier to get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What about you, Grace?
I would go broken heating, because I'm always I'd much rather be cold, and then I can warm myself up with blankets and sweaters than be hot. I can't stand being hot.
I don't know. I feel maybe I would say maybe broken air conditioning, because I feel with broken air conditioning you can use fans and just set up a bunch of fans.
Yeah, that's a good point. The dorms with no air conditioning.
Yeah, a lot of schools in the Northeast don't have any air conditioning. Okay, we would like to take a moment to express our gratitude to St. Clair Health. They've been our steadfast annual sponsor, supporting our podcast for 4 consecutive years now.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Dr. Yeasted, how did you become interested in medicine?
When I was in high school, early high school years, probably freshman year or so, I read a novel. The name of the novel was, I still remember, was Alas, Babylon. And you have to remember, I grew up in the age when nuclear war was considered almost imminent. They were certainly concerned about that. So, and the book was about a post apocalyptic time after a nuclear war. And there was a physician who was looked to in the community living on the beach where they were still surviving as the leader of the community. They went to him for advice, not just for medical, for other things on how can we survive, etc. And it impressed me that it would be kind of nice to be in that position to change the future and to be able to make a difference. And so I thought it'd be a good profession to go into. And I sort of, since high school days, I always wanted to do it. Went to college and in anticipation of getting into medical school and trying to get in, and eventually was lucky enough to do so. And the rest is history.
That's amazing. That's such an inspirational story.
Yeah. So did you like major in like chemistry or biology? Okay.
Biology.
Didn't want to major in chemistry because at our school you had to take physical chemistry, and there was a professor that thought a C was a good grade in physical chemistry. So biology majors didn't want to take it, so you didn't have to unless you were a chemistry major. So I stayed biology.
Where did you go for university and medical school?
I went to St. Vincent College in Latrobe, and then I went to University of Pittsburgh.
I have a friend who's playing golf at St. Vincent right now.
Yeah.
What do you like the most about your work with St. Clair Health?
Well, it's a very community-minded organization. So I think that's the nicest part of being there. I've been there a long time, obviously, practicing medicine, and then I was an administrator there for almost 18 years, and now I'm just sort of, they let me stay and do other things like community benefit, which is why we're here with Outreach Teen. I help with the foundation, but they're very good people that have the right attitude about healthcare, which is trying to improve not just illness, but trying to do preventive care for the people in the community, and whatever we can do to help people with, better diet, better exercise programs, etc. That's why it's just nice to work at St. Clair. They're not focused on getting larger; they're focused on doing what they do very well, and I enjoy that.
Would you say like the majority of healthcare corporations, like at least in the U.S., are more focused on like themselves and like improving the business, or would you say they're more focused on like the patients and like the well-being of
the community? Like
I would say the former.
Yeah.
I think they're more interested in running the business. That wasn't always true, but it's become more and more true over the past 10 to 15 years with the consolidations.
Yeah.
What is one goal you would like to accomplish in the next year, in your career or personally?
Well, I mean, at this age, I would say to you, I'd like to stay healthy enough to continue to do what I'm doing. I really accomplished most of the goals I wanted to accomplish, to be frank with you. I'm now a clinical assistant professor at Duquesne University's medical school, and I've really enjoyed that. That's been a lot of fun working with the young people, trying to instill in them the values that we learned in our days. And so as the school's just getting started, I'd like to be able to continue to do that. And to do that, I'm going to have to stay healthy. That's what I hope to do. So.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What do you believe is the biggest challenge that physicians are facing today?
The ability to care for patients the way we were taught, the way we wanted to do it, and the ethical way. The interference by insurance companies and outside government agencies has gotten worse all the time. That makes it more. No, it's not untenable. We certainly can do it. It's just not as pleasurable as it used to be. It used to be a lot of fun to be a physician. Now you have to work hard to get past all the obstacles that they place in your way to take care of patients the way you want to take care of them, and to try to, be there for your patients when they need you. So,
what are some of those obstacles that are in your way?
Well, it's authorizations for everything, authorizations for medications that people need. The cost is a problem for people. That bothers us as physicians. Getting tests done that are the right things to do, and trying to convince essentially someone sitting at a computer screen that hasn't seen the patient at all why it's the right thing to do. It's just a waste of time. I mean, we know what's right to do. We know how to take care of people. and so you have to convince someone else that has to pay for it. So we've gotten into that dichotomy here of, the cost of healthcare has gotten so great that an average person can't afford a CT scan or an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if those were affordable, then we could just get them without having permission. The insurance companies don't want to spend the money, so they want to limit as many as they can, and the more aggravating they can make it for you, the more aggravating they will make it for you. And so we fight that all the time. If costs were reasonable and we could do these things at a reasonable cost for the average patient, like the old days, you just pay cash for it. That's what people used to do. And then people who couldn't afford to pay it, we did the tests anyway. Mm-hmm. That's how you took care of people in the old days. If somebody didn't have the money, you just took care of them anyway. Yeah. Now with insurance, the costs have gotten so high, and it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the costs go up, the insurance company raises the prices. They raise the price, the costs go up, because if they're going to pay more, the hospital's going to charge more. And so it keeps going. We've got to stop that process so that the average person can afford good medical care in this country.
Yeah, my dad had to stay in like the ER for a little bit this summer. I think we went to St. Clair Health, and then he ended up staying in the ICU for a bit for like at McGee. It was like his sodium, like blood sodium levels or something like that. Mm-hmm. And like we keep getting like the bills charged because they don't come out at once. Mm-hmm. And the bills are insane.
They're insane.
It'll be like a crazy amount, and then it'll be like, oh, like insurance cover like this big chunk. But then the end number that you have to pay out of pocket is still like a crazy amount.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why are we depriving people of the healthcare and like medical services they need just because insurance companies want to make more money?
Well, the nice thing is we're not. I mean, to be fair, everybody gets medical care in this country that seeks it. No one gets, I hope, no one gets turned away. You certainly won't get turned away at St. Clair. You won't get turned away in Pittsburgh, I'm sure. There may be pockets of the country where it's not like that, but we don't turn anyone away. The problem is that the system is broken, so that you shouldn't have to worry about it. I'm more concerned about people worrying about the costs and not seeking medical care. Everyone's going to get medical care. If you ever go to St. Clair Hospital, whether you have insurance or don't have insurance, whether you can pay or not pay, they're still going to take care of you. And if you can't pay your bill, no one goes to debtor's prison in this country for not paying healthcare bills. We just write it off. That's why it's hard to run hospitals now, and that's why that goes back to your question earlier. Why has it become such a business? Well, because the reimbursements don't pay the hospitals, and I'm not saying St. Clair, I'm saying in general, they don't pay the hospitals what it costs to take care of people that don't have good insurance. But it's our responsibility to do that, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So we talk about people in this country not getting health care. Quite honestly, everybody gets health care. And the problem really is people afraid they won't get health care and don't seek it. And that concerns me, that they're just afraid they won't be able to pay the bills, so they don't go at all. I mean, no one is going to, again, put you in debtor's prison because you didn't pay your hospital bill. Hospitals just give up on that. Same with physicians. And it's just not the way it's done. And it's a strange system of inflated prices that nobody can afford. And then, as you say, the residual at the bottom, which still can be a lot. Don't misunderstand me if you're paying a percentage, but it's still, if you can't pay it, you already got your health care. You're still all right. It comes later and you say, I just can't pay that. Then we just don't do it. I mean, the hospitals write it off. I know we do, because I was at the hospital for 18 years in administration, and we just sit down and say, well, then just don't charge them anymore. That's it. They can't afford it. So, and they work out all sorts of systems to help people pay if they can. So it's the dichotomy of thinking we can't get healthcare worries me more than not getting it. You can always get it, but you have to be not afraid to go to the hospital. And I would say to anybody that feels that they can't afford it, make sure you go if you need health care. No one's going to turn you away. We will never do that.
Do you think that COVID affected these obstacles?
I think COVID affected everything. Affected your lives. It affected all of us. I think the world's different since COVID. People look at each other differently. They look at their future differently. I hope that someday that wears itself out of the system. But I think we all have that kind of post-COVID effect. Yeah. I don't think it affects people's health at this point as much as their just mental status and emotional status. It's changed us a lot.
So do you think that COVID made people more open or less open to getting health care?
Less.
Okay.
The numbers are down almost everywhere. The number of people that come to the emergency room in Western Pennsylvania is down at almost every hospital. The number of surgeries are down at almost every hospital. I mean, the healthcare has not recovered in volume for the number of people that are out there. So people are not seeking care the way they used to.
Do you think it's because people are losing faith in the healthcare system?
I think that's part of it.
Okay.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
They're losing faith in their government. They're losing faith in the healthcare system. They're losing faith in the education system. I mean, you're young. You know all that. I'm telling you something you don't know. But I think that's where I think COVID was hard for all of us.
Yeah. So this question, we already had this question, but I feel like we kind of answered it, which is like, what challenges do you feel patients are facing today? And would you say the biggest one might be just not seeking healthcare because they don't think they can afford it?
Not seeking healthcare because they think they might be able to afford it, and not seeking healthcare because they don't trust the system. So it's a double whammy, and that puts us as physicians, we're trying to help people, in a tough spot.
Yeah.
But that's I think those things will eventually work out. I have a different perspective than people your age. I mean, we've been through all these bad times before, and America has a way of evening out. We'll see what happens today, big election, but it'll even out. Some half the country's going to be unhappy today. That's okay. I mean, it's happened before. My goodness, in the 1800s we had a civil war, for heaven's sake. So I mean, it's those things have happened before, and the country survives. So I'm pretty optimistic on the future. I think we'll all get through this.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that faith in the system restore? Is there anything that specifically you as the hospitals do, or the people, or just perceptions?
I don't know if the hospital does a whole lot to restore faith in the government. Certainly from the healthcare system, we try to be out in the community. We're trying to get out there. We have different programs. You have programs for different kind of cancers, and programs for people that have had cancer that to be able to talk to each other and talk in Parkinson's disease. All these type of programs. We try to get out into the community. We try to get out to the schools. Okay, so the young people realize that there's a great benefit to be in the healthcare field. People like us love the healthcare field, but as I always say to young people or anyone, it's not a job you can do at home. You have to be there with patients. Nurses can't really work from home. When you need a nurse to come in and change your linens, that's what they have to do. So, or fix your IV, they've got to do that. They can't do that on a computer. So that makes it tough, because a lot of younger people are looking for jobs where they can sit at a computer screen and do their job from there. That's not healthcare. Healthcare is with people. And we have to learn again. I think that's where COVID, hurt us too. We don't relate as well to each other as we used to.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to take some time, but it'll come back. Those things come back.
I was wondering, can't radiologists stay at home and
They can stay at home.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Feel like I've heard some can.
I've heard
not all.
my mom telling me about how she has some friends who I think one of her friends is a radiologist, and they get to stay home and look at their computer screen and then type up the reports and send them into the hospital.
Yeah, that's the one field where you can. Although we still have to have radiologists at the hospital for a couple of reasons. First of all, I mean, some are at home, but some are in every day, because if I want to look at an X-ray of one of my patients, you want to go down and be able to talk to somebody and look at it together. There's a thing called interventional radiology, where they actually will use, catheters and needles to go in and drain abscesses, etc. Which we never even could do in the past. But that's a whole field of radiology where you're at the bedside. So those kind of things. You can't do radiation therapy. Those are radiologists. You have to do that with the patient there. So there are some fields. But reading regular films, reading CT scans, yes, they can do that at home now.
Yeah.
So
the one exception,
Yeah, that's true. And actually, Mayo Clinic is experimenting even with some nursing jobs that you can do from home, where they can be watching all the vital signs on monitors. Now, you'll still need somebody at the hospital. So if they see something, they can call right away and say, go check this. Looks like the heart's in an irregular rhythm. But they can monitor. So they're hoping to get some jobs for nurses that they can do from home, and take turns being at home for a week, at the hospital for a week.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice. That'd be nice for that profession, because that's a hard profession. I mean, nurses are they're the backbone of the healthcare system. Believe me. I mean, they have to be. When you think that how many times they miss their children's school events, how many times they miss holidays, and there are always nurses at the hospital on Christmas Day. There's always nurses at the hospital on Thanksgiving, missing Thanksgiving dinner. So they're there all the time. As physicians, we sort of come and go sometimes. But not nurses. They have to be there. So I give them a lot of credit for what they do.
Yeah.
It's a great field. wonderful field, but it's not easy.
For sure.
So
What advice would you give to someone considering a career in medicine?
I think you have to make sure you're willing to sacrifice some of your time for that. It's pretty. I didn't. Most people that get to medical school, and I've done a lot of interviews for Duquesne and for Pitt over the years, and those young people like yourselves who are coming in for medical school, they haven't been goofing off in college or high school. They worked pretty hard, and they had a focus. So I think that's time where you could be out playing tennis with your friends or going to a party, and you say, I can't do it. I have to study for a chemistry test, or so it's a pretty big investment of time. Medical school is even more so. In the first 2 years, it's very very hard for the younger people. So, and then once you got your profession, you still put a lot of time in. So I think it's a matter of you have to, it's a vocation. If you want to help others, you want to have that knowledge to help others, it's a great vocation. But it's not just a job, it is a vocation. You have to be willing to dedicate your life to it.
Yeah.
So my advice is work hard if you want to do it. But the rewards are great. I mean, I love what I do. I've done it all my life. I could have retired a long time ago, but I don't want to because I really enjoy still taking care of people. So.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge St. Clair Health. We're deeply grateful for their generous sponsorship of the 4th season of Teens Tap In.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve so we can be stronger together by creating reliable resources that recognize all of our neighbors with access to the highest quality healthcare, advanced care close to home, and a shared humanity that delivers on our joint vision to create a healthier community for all. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
So, Dr. Yeasted, how do you think that mental and physical health intersect in your practice? And are there certain physical symptoms that you see often connected to mental health issues?
That's a definite yes. Okay, so one of the things you learn at Duquesne, which is an osteopathic medical school, which you may know, is this whole concept of mind, body, and spirit, which is very true. The human beings are not just physical symptoms. They're not just a sore elbow. They're not just chest pain. There are reasons for all those things. And so that whole person aspect of taking care of someone mentally and physically is extremely important. What kind of symptoms people have? I've said this to my patients so many times over the decades. Stress can present itself in any symptom at all. I don't care what it is. What are the more common ones? Tired all the time. I just don't feel good. My heart's racing. I don't have any appetite. I don't sleep well. But all those things are factors in the human body, and your body needs to rest. It needs to recover, and you've got to give it a chance without all that stress. So I think the stress of life gets to a lot of people. And we see it in our practice all the time. Every doctor does. It's hard for every physician to try to convince the patient that if they could change their lifestyle, change their attitude toward things, they could actually get better. But it's hard to do that because you get wrapped up in all your parents are worried about you and the kids and what are you going to end up like and what about this and you have a problem at school or you have a problem with your friends and you know what that's like. You young girls grew up like that. I mean, it's hard for young ladies in that junior high school age. And then the parents worry about that, and then they come in to see the doctor, and they don't feel good. Well, it's because of all the stress that they're under with their kids all the time. But we've all gone through it. I mean, you have to have perspective, and if you have the perspective, and you can look at the whole picture, and you get patients look at the whole picture, it works out really pretty well.
Yeah, so. I think it's really important, like you said, to look at like the big picture because I think sometimes we get stuck on like the symptoms or like the little things, but we don't really think about how like changing like smaller habits or just changing something here can really have a big chain effect on.
It's hard for young people. Most of the people listening to this are going to be young, right? So it's hard for young people to have perspective because you can't get perspective until you have perspective. You can talk about it. Yeah. I would say talk to your grandparents, talk to your parents and especially grandparents if they're around. They've seen it all. I'm a grandparent now. I mean, as I said to you, you watch the country come and go and different things, but America's strong. We have good people in this country. We have the immigrants keep coming from different countries. I was at Duquesne on Monday doing interviews, and you'll like this. I had a young lady whose parents were from Poland. She grew up in Chicago. bright young lady. I had a young man whose father was from Morocco and mother was from Mexico, first generation in this country. And I had a young girl whose parents were Vietnamese. And so they're all trying, look, none of those parents got maybe even finished high school, some of them. But here their children are applying to medical school, will probably get in. They were all good students. So that's America. That's a great country when you can have all those people coming from so many places in the world to make us a stronger country and a more diverse country. So it's kind of interesting to be down there and see what the kind of students that are coming through now. So that's perspective. You have to have a perspective. Hard when you're young. You look back and you say, well, we shouldn't worry so much like we do all the time. Yeah. I mean, neither of you should worry either. Things will work out. They seem terrible sometimes, but they work out.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think our diet influences our physical and mental health?
Absolutely. You have to eat properly, stay off the junk food, eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, that's certainly the right diet. Keep your weight under control. Exercise. And exercise doesn't mean you have to go to the gym every day. Walking is good exercise. You know what I mean? So those kind of things you should try to do all the time if you can. But diet plays a big part in it, eating the proper fruits and vegetables. And trying to avoid processed foods too. It's in America, everybody's in a hurry. So it's easy to go to, I shouldn't say any stores, but to run into a grocery store and grab the thing that they already processed for you. That's common now. In the old days, our grandparents were young. Nobody ever did that. You went down to the local butcher, you went down to the local fruit vendor and vegetable vendor, just brought everything home, made it all fresh. Now we have all these prepared things, so it's quicker. Because we have to get to the soccer game or we've got to get down to the cheerleader practice, because I'm like this all the time in America. We've kind of gotten ourselves into this mess. But eating fruits, vegetables, and, fresh foods, very, very important for health. Absolutely.
I definitely need to take that advice. I feel like I'm always all over the place. And so I never have time to sit down and actually make food. So I'm just I just grab something or
Well, you're not unique. I mean, this is what's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
We've gotten ourselves too busy with things.
Yeah.
We don't take time to sit back and just meditate and just let take a look at the world for once.
Yeah.
So.
Many teens feel anxious about seeing a doctor or talking openly about their health, especially mental health. Do you have any advice for teens to make these conversations easier?
Yeah, I think the first thing to realize is that the physicians will keep it confidential. I think if they feel that, they'll open up to the doctors. We're there just to help. We don't have any vested interest. We're not there to, call their parents and tell them what's going on. That's not what we're there for. So teens have to realize that physicians just want to help them, and the more they can tell us that's bothering them, the more easily we can help them. So I would say just don't be afraid to open up to the physicians. And I always say to even my patients, find a physician you trust. If you don't really feel comfortable with that doctor, there are lots of doctors out there, a lot of good doctors out there. Get a different doctor. Ask your mom and dad, or if you're a teenager, say, can I see someone else? I want to see. Sometimes they get uncomfortable with their pediatricians, and some people are very comfortable with their pediatricians. It depends on the young people. I've had younger people that say, I don't want to go in there anymore. There's too many babies in there. And then I'll have people that will still see the pediatrician at 21, 22 years old because they trust the doctor and they can talk to him or her. So that's how I would recommend it. Just realize that it's all confidential, that you're not going to get in trouble for anything you say, and just try to be as honest as you can. Because there are lots of things bother young people they don't want to talk about. I don't have to tell you guys that. I was young too one time. So that's the other thing about perspective. We've all gone through this, So you're not unique, and we're all very similar in trying to grow up and get those thoughts through and those feelings out of our system. It's easier when you're older because you've been through it all. But when you're young, it's pretty stressful, as you all know.
Yeah.
So
going off of that topic of stress, so stress is such a big part of a teen's life with academics, social pressures, and planning for the future. So do you have any advice for how to manage stress in a way that's healthy?
I do. Whether it works for everybody, I don't know. But I was thinking about that sort of thing for young people. I'll say the 3 F's. Okay, faith, family, and friends. Not necessarily in that order. I'll mention them in that order. But I think we've lost in this country. A lot of us have lost any focus on some higher being. whatever your religion is, and there are religions all over the world, and they all seem to have a higher being that they look up to. I think that that's part of we've lost that in this country, and we're losing it. Family, of course, that takes a lot of stress out if you can discuss it with your family. If that's the source of your stress, that's a different issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I think then you go to some other family member. You don't have to be your parents, because it's hard to talk to your parents. We all have that trouble. You want to say things to your parents, and they took care when you were little. Now you're a teenager or a young adult, in your 20s, and you don't want to say anything to your parents. But you may have an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent or a cousin you can talk to. But I think family is very important, and we've lost a lot of that because we're so mobile in this country, right? A lot of people here don't have any relatives around because they've moved here from Kansas or Milwaukee or whatever. So you just have to look for family members. And then, of course, friends. It's always good to have a lot of friends that you can talk to. You don't have to have a lot. I shouldn't have said a lot. You need to have some close friends you can talk to. Even one sometimes is all you need to get you through high school years. Two people can just talk it over. I think that those are the three things that I think help to relieve a lot of the stress. And of course, my biggest way to relieve it is something you can't have, and that's perspective. We talk about it all the time. You just have to realize that people have been through this before. You'll get through it. It's just tough. Feels terrible when you're going through it, but you get through all that. So,
would you say the 3 F's is how you personally manage stress?
Yes, I would say it is. I'd say family for me is being married. I mean, I was married pretty young. My wife and I have gone through all this together, and we were married during medical school. So, we've been together for 50 some years now. So it's pretty nice if you're lucky that way, to have somebody to stay with all your life. We've been good friends, so.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Many teens struggle to get enough sleep due to busy schedules. How does sleep impact physical and mental health, and do you have any tips for making sleep more of a priority?
So, as I mentioned earlier, your body needs to recover. So you definitely need to get a good night's sleep and to sleep well. Easily said, not always easy to do when you have a lot of tests coming up or you have papers that are due the next day. But I would say, and I'm going to use the old term discipline. You have to discipline yourself. And we talked about trying to, how do you get to medical school? You discipline yourself. You have to put time aside for study. You have to put time aside for rest. You can't be working all the time because you'll just wear out. So sleep's important. What are my suggestions? You set a limit and you just say, I'm going to get my work done. Now, that means you don't sit in front of the television or you don't play on your phone, for an extra 45 minutes. You just can't do that if you are disciplined enough and you want to get your sleep. So easy to say for me, because we didn't have phones like that when we were young. We did have television. And I remember being in college, never wanted to sit down in front of a TV because once you sit there, you get hooked. I mean, you start watching a program, you want to see what happens. And all of a sudden, 15 minutes are gone, 20 minutes are gone. That was study time. So, but if it's study time that you're losing, what's going to happen at the end of the day? It's sleep time you're going to lose. So you have to be more disciplined, and the students have to be disciplined so that they get their work done in a reasonable period of time, stay off the social media stuff, get your work done, and get to sleep on time, and make sure you get enough rest for the next day. Not easy to do. I'm not saying those things are easy because a lot of pressure. You're getting texted, you're getting whatever you guys get. I get texted, you probably get some other things, but Instagram or whatever. I don't do those things. But, I get that from patients, but there comes a time when you turn off that phone and go to bed, and you just have to get your rest. So you have to be disciplined to do it, because it'll take. You can waste a lot of time. We all can.
Oh yeah,
we all do. We all do.
Implement that in my life.
Oh yeah.
Okay, last question. What small changes can teens make today that would have a big impact on their health, both physical and mental, in the long term?
I'll go back to say, I don't think that all the social media things are good for young people. Certain your age, I'm sure it's fine, but these early young ladies, everybody knows that there's studies being done now. This is very bad for them. So I would say that's the one thing for good health, mental health, which will translate into physical health. And that is you stay off those phones, find some way to communicate with your friends without all this, bullying and things of that nature. That bothers me a lot. So I think that's one thing for sure. Eat healthy foods. We talked about that. Okay. Get exercise, fresh air exercise, get outside, do the things that we used to do. Not that we did everything right. Believe me, we didn't. But there are still ways to, I laugh when your parents have to drive you 3 blocks to the gym so you could exercise. I mean, just walk. I mean, get out and walk more. That we don't do that very much, and we live in a safe community, which is nice. This is, if you live in a place where you can't walk, that's one thing, but no one's going to bother you in Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Bethel Park. I mean, those are safe places. So I think that we take advantage of what we have. So again, it's good diet, good rest, discipline in your life, and trying to stay away from that social media as much as possible. And you will be a healthier young person, and your health, your physical health and your mental health will improve.
I'm gonna go and start doing that today. I need to take. Also, it's so nice outside. Like, I need to go take a walk and then eat some fruits and veggies tonight, and force myself to go to bed early.
9:30 in bed.
So like, I'm gonna say like 10.
I feel like
I could do 10.
I feel like
I
I just
tried
say
really hard.
9:30 and then 10:30 is actually what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I gotta work on the discipline.
Me too. Especially like senior year. Like,
Oh.
oh my gosh.
There's always something you could be doing.
No, that's what I always think. I always feel like, well, like, I shouldn't be resting. Like, I should be like writing more supplementals or like studying for my math test. But yeah. To conclude, we want to express our gratitude to St. Clair Health, whose support makes this podcast possible. We invite you to listen to the following message from our sponsor.
At St. Clair Health, we're always improving, building on our commitment to face the challenges of today, making an impact on the communities we serve, so we can be stronger together. St. Clair Health, expert care from people who care.
Follow us on Instagram at outreach_teen for the latest updates on our events. Outreach is very excited to debut their new body project in collaboration with the Airy Real Foundation. This program is a group-based intervention for girls in high school to help them find healthy ways to confront society's unrealistic beauty ideals. If you are interested in being a part of a body project session, contact Maggie Zangara. Her email is mzangara@outreachteen.org. We are so grateful to each and every one of you for tuning in and supporting our podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Yeasted. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye.
Everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
The views and opinions expressed in the Teens Tap In podcast represent the opinions of the hosts and their guests. The views and opinions expressed by Outreach Teen and Family Services employees, donors, and volunteers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Outreach Teen and Family Services or the show's sponsors. The content here should not be taken as counseling advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is unique, please consult your mental health provider or physician for any mental health counseling or other medical questions. The podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including, but not limited to, establishing a standard of care in a legal sense, or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast. If you find any error in any of the content of the podcast, please contact us at podcasts@outreachteen.org. Outreach Teen and Family Services, its sponsors, donors, and partners expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages whatsoever arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, reliance on, or inability to use this podcast or the information presented in this podcast. Please go to www.outreachteen.org to see the complete notice and disclaimer for the podcast episodes.